bringing you some must-buy fantasy football trade targets for Week 9 fantasy football. On the way to 4,000 subscribers, answering all your start, sit, trade questions, so make sure you are subscribed. Starting off with player number 1, it is going to be Breece Hall for the New York Jets. And Breece Hall is still a top 5 running back for me rest of the season. And I know a lot of people are starting to debate, hey, I don't love what's been happening to Breece Hall. I don't like what's happening to this overall Jets offense. Breece Hall with 9.9 fantasy points in Week 8 doesn't make you excited, because we do know that the Jets are potentially one loss away from having to just throw in the towel. But I do like Breece Hall and his overall value going forward, because if we look at the overall snaps, I know we've been worried about Braylon Allen for pretty much the whole season, but in this game, Braylon Allen only got 19 snaps, Breece Hall got 46. 14 routes run versus 5 routes run for Breece Hall, absolutely demolishing in the routes run. He got 3 targets to Braylon Allen 0. Now, the part is that Braylon Allen is still continuing to eat into Breece Hall's carry work. So Breece Hall only had 16 carries versus 11 carries for Braylon Allen, which I think at this point we all can agree Braylon Allen does deserve the carries because of how he has played up to this point in the NFL. But Breece Hall continues to be a guy that I want to be targeting, because if we're looking at a lot of people looking at their top 5 running backs, well, you probably have Saquon, Derrick Henry, Breece, Bijan, and Kyron right now as your top 5. And I mean, besides Saquon and Derrick Henry, are you taking Bijan Robinson ahead of Breece Hall right now? That's kind of the question for me. And so I still think Breece Hall has Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry level potential. And so I want to be getting in on that, especially as we look at his overall playoff schedule for the fantasy football playoffs. It's pretty juicy. So assuming that your fantasy football playoffs start like week 14, week 15, he's got Miami, Jacksonville, the Los Angeles Rams in weeks 14 through week 16. So I definitely think you need to be targeting some Breece Hall as a trade target. Now, if we start to look at what potential trades are going to be looking like here for Breece Hall, like Breece Hall and George Kittle for Jerry Jeudy, DeAndre Swift, give me the Breece Hall, give me the Jerry Jeudy side. We got Chuba Hubbard and Breece Hall for Devontae Adams, Deontay Johnson, Tony Pollard. Give me the Breece Hall side there. We got Breece Hall and Datavion Wicks for Javonte Williams, Drake London. Give me the Breece Hall side there. Mark Andrews and Breece Hall for Brock Bowers, Jonathan Taylor. Okay, that one's a little bit more rough, especially after what we just saw from Jonathan Taylor this week. But there is, like I said, Breece Hall for Braylon Allen, Christian McCaffrey. That's another interesting one. If you're kind of banking on, you're a little bit selling out on Christian McCaffrey with him coming back, getting off of Braylon Allen to go get a Breece Hall, 100% like that deal. So definitely be going and exploring what potential trades could look like for Breece Hall, because I do think he's an absolutely great buy for fantasy football. We move on to the next guy that you need to be buying in fantasy football circles. It's going to be Nico Collins for the Houston Texans. And even though Nico Collins hasn't played in 3 weeks, he's still the overall wide receiver 13, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And what did we see this last week? We saw Stephon Diggs go down with an injury, which we'll have to see what that overall timeline is going to be looking like. For all of us that were maybe worried in the offseason about what is the snap share, what are the target share going to look like between Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell, Nico Collins was the clear alpha, and when he comes back, he's even more going to be a clear alpha. So when we start to look at what people are currently doing and giving up to trade for a guy like Nico Collins, someone traded away Jaden Reed and T. Higgins. I know that seems like a lot. Like, I have Jaden Reed as my wide receiver 14 rest of the season. I have T. Higgins as my wide receiver 16. Nico Collins arguably could be a top 7, top 6 wide receiver when he returns. We got a Nico Collins for Drake May, Mike Evans, and Jackson Smith and Jay Black. Give me the Nico Collins side. We got Nico Collins for Nick Chubb and Deebo Samuel. Give me the Nico Collins side. Like, I think we're underreacting to the fact of how good Nico Collins was and how good he's going to be for you down the stretch. Now, buying a player that's injured, you're always a little bit concerned about what that potentially is going to look like post-injury. Is he going to be as if explosive? Is he going to have the cuts? But I believe with him properly sitting out on the IR, not rushing back from this injury, I am excited for what Nico Collins is going to be able to provide for your fantasy football teams. And you definitely need to be going and exploring what a trade could be like for Nico Collins. We just saw what Puka Nacua did in that first week back from injury. The Puka Nacua buy window has closed, but the Nico Collins buy window is still open. We move on to the next player that you need to be buying for fantasy football. It's going to be Travis Kelce. And the tight end landscape has been absolutely desolate this season. Besides, maybe the top 5 or 6 tight ends, if we're talking, Brock Bowers, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, throw maybe Kyle Pitts in there. David Njoku has started to look good. Evan Ingram potentially there on the precipice. But this last week versus the Vegas Raiders, we got Travis Kelce with an absolute clutch game of 25 fantasy points, had a 79% snap share, 12 targets, 10 receptions for 90 yards, and a total TD. Highest scoring game of Travis Kelce's fantasy football season. And I've already started to see a few people start to say, hey, this is the time to get out on Travis Kelce. We saw the first week of DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins had a great snapshot, seemed to have really good chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. So definitely try to sell out. Well, for me, I'm currently looking to buy into some Travis Kelce because I want to ride this guy late into the season. And I saw the report today that some people are worried about the overall playoff schedule for the Kansas City Chiefs in regards to fantasy football purposes because, like, hey, they're 7-0 right now. If they go into week 15, week 16, week 17, where they might get to rest some of their starters in the second half. Like, I've heard those arguments, plus their playoff schedule, Chargers, Cleveland, Houston, Pittsburgh. It's not the best matchup for fantasy football players. I hear all that. But I still want some Travis Kelce on my team. I have him as the tight end 2 rest of season. And so I definitely think you need to start exploring what those trades are going to look like. And when we pull up the fantasy football calculator trade database, someone traded Sam Laporta for Travis Kelce straight up. I prefer Travis Kelce over Sam Laporta, so absolutely love that deal. Someone traded away Kenneth Walker for Travis Kelce and Rico Dowdle. That's probably a fair deal. Depending on if you have a ton of running back depth that you feel like, cool, I need to get a top tier tight end and I can add Rico Dowdle, I understand maybe doing that deal. Someone traded away Tucker Kraft for Travis Kelce. Come on, that probably should not be allowed to happen in your league and probably should be vetoed. Someone got off of George Kittle. Maybe someone valued George Kittle a little bit higher, but got the DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce side. Absolutely love that as a buy. We look at Travis Kelce, Amari Cooper, or Joe Mixon and Pat Freiermuth. Give me the Travis Kelce, Amari Cooper side there, especially with Amari Cooper in that down week. I do think Amari Cooper is a great buy low option as well. So definitely go explore what potential trades could look like for Travis Kelce. The next buy that we're going to be talking about, it's going to be DeAndre Swift for the Chicago Bears. And DeAndre Swift has been having himself a season. RB16 on the season this last week, had 18 fantasy points. The week before that in week 6, they were on bye in week 7, 21 fantasy points, 20 fantasy points, 29 fantasy points. So you can maybe say to me, Caleb, DeAndre Swift is not a buy low candidate at all. DeAndre Swift should be in the top 20 running backs rest of the season. Well, if we look at DeAndre Swift's overall playoff schedule that he's going to be coming up down the stretch, week 16 versus Detroit, week 17 versus Seattle, week 14 versus San Francisco, Minnesota, and week 15. It's not maybe the best schedule that we've seen out of any of these running backs that we're talking about, but I do think DeAndre Swift, even being the RB16 right now, is still worth the value because everyone needs an RB2 level running back. And I think DeAndre Swift is providing like RB1 level numbers so that when we start to explore what trades are looking like for DeAndre Swift, someone traded Cooper Kupp straight up for DeAndre Swift. I always lean the wide receiver, so I'm probably closer to going with the Cooper Kupp side, but someone cheered off of Kenneth Walker for a Jaden Reed DeAndre Swift. That's exactly what I would want to do. If I could tier off maybe Kenneth Walker is my RB2 based on my roster construction, that's a deal that I'm looking to explore. Someone tiered off of Chris Olave to go get a DeAndre Swift, Xavier Legette. Like that deal as well. DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift for James Cook, Zay Flowers. This one is one where I have to take a pause because I do have Zay Flowers and DJ Moore closely ranked. I don't have James Cook closely ranked DeAndre Swift, so I probably lean the right side. But Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Swift for DK Metcalf. Tearing off of DK Metcalf to get Swift and Worthy. That is definitely an interesting one. DeAndre Swift, Kate on for Kenneth Walker. Like, I do think there are deals available. Now, I do have Jaden Reed still ahead of DeAndre Swift in my rest of season rankings, so I probably lean that side, but I think you guys can kind of see that DeAndre Swift, his overall value in fantasy football leagues right now is kind of all over the place, and so I'm personally continuing to go buy some DeAndre Swift. Now, the next guy that you should be buying in fantasy football, it's going to be Jaylen Waddle for the Miami Dolphins, and Jaylen Waddle in this return for Tua Tagovailoa only put up 8.5 fantasy points, had an 86% snap share, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 45 yards. It's been a down season for Jaylen Waddle. Overall, wide receiver 63, but the main reason we can kind of attribute is no Tua Tagovailoa, but this was a down day for Jaylen Waddle. While on the other hand, Tyreek Hill also didn't have the most amazing day, but put up 13 fantasy points, so it was a better day for Tyreek Hill than it was for Jaylen Waddle. But I just continue to think it's first game back for Tua Tagovailoa after that massive injury. Going forward, you definitely need to be considering this offense. We saw good things for Devon. We saw good things for Raheem Mostert. It eventually will catch up for a guy like Jaylen Waddle. When we start to pull up trades that are going down for Jaylen Waddle, we're going to see Jaylen Waddle for Amari Cooper. I think that's probably a fair deal. You lean the way that you want to go. Bucky Irvin and Jaylen Waddle tiered off for Devontae Adams. If you need some depth, 100% go with the Bucky Irvin, Jaylen Waddle side, because I do think Devontae Adams, as much as he's like my wide receiver 16 rest of the season, you get 2 upside shots that you could potentially play in your flex versus like Devontae Adams, but your wide receiver 2. Jaylen Waddle for Cortland Sutton, Tucker Kraft. That's a great deal. Give me the Jaylen Waddle side. Tyler Lockett was traded straight up for Jaylen Waddle, JSN. Some bigger packages like an AJ Brown, Jaylen Waddle, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson. Like in these bigger deals, like in this side, I personally I want the Saquon Barkley side, but I think you could argue the AJ Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs side there as well. That one's a rough one. I'm over here debating that here as we talk. But my last and final trade target that you need to be trying to go buy heading into Week 9 fantasy football, it is going to be Jonathon Brooks for the Carolina Panthers. And Dave Canales this last week said Jonathon Brooks is improving in his rehab, looking good in practice. He can do everything that the coaching staff wants. But then the question was, is he going to play this season? And I think with how the Carolina Panthers team is kind of in this rebuild, they're really not in a rush to bring him back, which is very unfortunate to all of us that currently have Jonathon Brooks in the IR slot. Let's not forget, Jonathon Brooks, drafted as a second-round rookie, high-level upside. We thought he was going to eat Chuba Hubbard's lunch, but Chuba Hubbard has put together being a very high-quality RB2 / right now he's the RB11 right now in fantasy football, so he's a back-end RB1, which shouldn't surprise us because anyone in a Dave Canales-led offense, we saw that from Rachaad White last year, but I just thought Jonathon Brooks was more explosive than Chuba Hubbard, and he was going to end up getting more run this season. So if you like taking chances, and I think some of us like to take some overall chances in our fantasy football leagues, then you definitely need to go explore what potential trades are looking like for Jonathon Brooks. Like 1-for-1, someone traded Jonathon Brooks for Deontay Johnson. I probably wait to see right there what a trade potentially would look like for Deontay Johnson because Adam Schefter reported that he is going to be looking to get traded. Like I said, Jonathon Brooks, there's a chance he doesn't play this year at all. So could I trade a guy like a Khalil Shakir, who's probably my wide receiver 4 or 5 for an upside shot at Jonathon Brooks? I'm looking at that deal. We can continue scrolling down. Like Jonathon Brooks for George Pickens, I'm not doing that. Jonathon Brooks Tank Dell for Stephon Diggs, I'm not doing that as well. So maybe Jonathon Brooks is a name that we should be trying to sell him, but like Jonathon Brooks for Jalen McMillan, that's a deal that I would do 100%. I'm trying to see if there's any more for ones. When we're looking at these big level deals, it's just kind of throwing. Jonathon Brooks for Keenan Allen, I love that deal. Jonathon Brooks and David Montgomery for Aaron Jones, that's in the same tier, so you're getting like a free Jonathon Brooks in my personal opinion. So definitely be going and try to see what Jonathon Brooks is going to be in your league. If you like fantasy football, if you like trading, hit that like and subscribe button. Tomorrow we're bringing you some players that I think you need to try to sell off your roster and giving you some trade ideas and targets. Putting out a rankings video later this week. A lot of y'all have been asking for that content and I haven't been providing it for you, so definitely going to be switching up the strategy a little bit this week with trying to provide the most value so to help you guys win your fantasy football leagues. We'll be streaming on Wednesday night, so make sure you're tuned into that. Check out these 2 videos if you haven't, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.